Hello, hello. Y'all, I tell you the truth, I don't even know what time it is. Because, baby, you know how I do, y'all. I go live better than think because I've got so much stuff to bid out. Y'all, Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal. Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal. 45. 47, excuse me. Yeah, he was 45 and he was 47. Good gracious alive. So, as you all enter, if you come into the live, make sure you please hit that like button. Now, let me go over some of this stuff because this is good to be a child. Now, let me just kind of go over this because I have just been kind of waiting to see what is going to be where all of the, they have thrown the SHIT up against the wall, and I was trying to see how it was going to fall. So let me explain to you what I am talking about. So apparently, wasn't apparently, last week, Pam Bondi, who is over the DOJ, she came out and said that the Epstein files and everything was closed. She put out this press release, and I've read that press release. And they also put out uh, a videotape showing that they were saying that Epstein had pruned himself from the timeline at the jail. They'd shown the jail footage on basically what you saw in regards to that was just the door with a couple of people going in and a couple of people going out. Fine. Well, baby, because you know that Trump ran on that campaign of releasing the files. He was going to release the Epstein files. The Epstein files. So he said that he was going to release the Epstein files. That was part of his campaign. And then last week, first Bondi said that she had, because the big thing was about this list. There was this list that was supposed to be going around with all the names of the people that apparently were the Johns. That's what I'm going to call them. That were the ones that Jesline was getting the girls for. Now, it's my understanding that Jesline trafficked thousands of girls in that period of time that she was with Epstein. So she has been convicted of the trafficking. Now, if the girls are being trafficked, there has to be someone that they're being trafficked to. Now, it has been reported by some of the girls who had been trafficked that they were taken to Epstein Island. You had girls from Florida that reported that they had been taken from Florida and they had gone to Epstein Island and they were there and they were being trafficked on that island, correct? All right. Well, we all know that there is a manifest of all a flight manifest that shows the people going in and out of that island, right? Now, this flight manifest, which was part of Jesline's trial, let me see if I can share my screen. List a lot of different people, a lot of different names. Does it mean that those people were the people that were with the girls? No. But there was a lot of people. And this was part of the trial. You see the government exhibit. And these were the flight logs, and it lists all the people. So these are the names Hold on, let me make sure. Yeah. These are some of the names. I see, looks like a Dale Coleman, a Saul Levy, just a bunch of names. Jeffrey's name on there, so that must be him. But this whole manifesto, we're not going to go because it's 118 pages. And with the pilot's signature and everything like that, it's 118 pages. So these are the people that he flew on his plane to his island down in the Virgin Islands. But this was the government information that they used to convict Ghislaine Maxwell. So anyway, they were talking about that there was no well, Ghislaine, let me go back. Ghislaine had mentioned that she had a list, and she was doing that in a way to try to get out of being tried. She talked about a list, and she had mentioned that, hey, if anything breaks down or anything, I've got this list that's supposed to protect me. And I guess when Epstein pruned himself from the timeline, because he would have been the keeper of the list. Now you let me tell it. I think there was a list, and I think Epstein had it, but once he had pruned himself from the timeline, where that list is, I don't know if anyone really truly knows. But that's why there's so many files. Also, please remember that Epstein was tried in Florida court and was found guilty, but he got that sweetheart deal from our 45s, which is now 47s, former attorney general before Bill Barr. And all these people have connections, from what I understand, to Epstein. Epstein not only had connections in the government, regardless if they were Republican or Democrat, he had big connections in the political world. He had big connections in the business world. He had international connections. He had connections with Russia. He had connections in all these little different places. So basically, he was protected. He was being protected. And particularly in Florida, he was being protected because he was convicted of the prostitute with the minor. Instead of getting years, he was given a few months. Then it was basically time served. Everywhere, every forms of government, he was there. He had politicians in California, in Florida, in New York, in Washington, D.C., not only state, but local, state, and federal. He had a lot of connections. There was a senator that got on the floor and said that he had, looking through some of the information that he had looked through, that Epstein had made 4,700 transactions totaling more than $1 billion. Now, I don't know if those were business transactions or were they personal transactions. But nonetheless, it's still a lot of information. Now, let me continue. At the beginning of this year, after he was sworn in, he said that they were going to release the Epstein, they were going to release JFK, they were going to release the Epstein's files. And you remember the little the press photo op where they released this binder full of information, which they said it was already information available in the news. They probably gave them news clippings where it was a binder with an official list on the front talking about Epstein information, and they released these binders. We had that going on. Them kind of stunt shows and shenanigans going on with that. And then, like I said last week, Pamela Bondi says, oh, we're closing it. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to see here. So then the press started asking questions. And then as they were asking questions, 47 says, gets upset. Why are we talking about this insignificant person? Somebody that I didn't know. Somebody this. He just kept going on because he doesn't like the spotlight not to be on him. And you all were giving too much attention to this Epstein person. So those in the MAGA are upset because they're like, what do you mean you're not going to give us this information? This is the information that partly why we voted you in. Because we need to know the names of the people who was on that list. And you said that you were going to give us those names. How dare you not give us these names? We want to know who these names are. So it's been a back and forth, a big back and forth. So we have Congress, the Democrats in Congress was trying to get a bill passed for them to release it, and that stalled. The press has been hounding Pamela Boundy about the information, but she's saying that it's closed. It's even to the point that even the conservative pundits are upset about that. Some people getting just sick to their stomach, fam. Because they don't have that information. So why am I online? Well, apparently, Trump has sued the Wall Street Journal. And you know how I love celebrity legal issues. I have a copy of the lawsuit. So, since my insomnia is picking up and I can't sleep, let's read this lawsuit. But first, before we do that, let's get some context as to why he is suing. And if you all hear some whirling, that's my fan. Oops. There. Yeah, that's my fan. So just forgive it. It's hot. The summer is summering because where I live at, it is extremely, extremely hot. Even to the point that it is upsetting my air conditioner to where some days it blows like it's supposed to, and then some days it just doesn't. So I have to compensate it with all my fans coming. And that's interesting because, again, when they're on his side, they're the best people in the world. Anybody that goes against them, he's going to probably, but we tried to explain to these people. They voted him in. So this is what they're going to get. So let's go over. I'm going to go over the article by CNN. And it says here, Trump files libel lawsuit over Wall Street Journal's report on Jeffrey Epstein's birthday letters. President Donald Trump filed a libel lawsuit against the publisher of the Wall Street Journal and reporters who wrote a story about a collection of letters gifted to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday in 2003, including a note bearing Trump's name and an outline of a naked woman. The lawsuit, which seeks at least $20 billion, is an extraordinary exhalation of Trump's ongoing legal campaign against media companies he views as opponents. Trump has denied that he wrote the note. In the 18-page filing, his legal team accuses the Journal parent company of engaging in glaring failures in journalistic ethics and standards of accurate reporting. And they said the reason for those failures is because no authentic letter or drawing exist. The Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump that the supposed letter they printed by President Trump to Epstein was a fake, and if they print it, they will be sued. I wonder. Probably there's probably now behind a paywall, but let's see. Here it is. This is what they're suing over. It says Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him body letters for his 50th birthday album. One was from Donald J. Trump. Now you see him and Epstein are together. Oh, it is behind the paywall, y'all. I knew it was. But this is the article. It was Jeffrey Epstein and Giselle Maxwell was preparing a special gift to mark the occasion. She turned to Epstein's family and friends, and one of them was Donald J. Trump. And I guess she pulled together this little photo thing. But let's get back to CNN because, you know, it's behind a paywall. We won't be able to see that report. So let's do this. We're not going to read too much into this article. Let's get to what I want to get into, which is the lawsuit. That's what I want to get into. Oops. There we go. So here we have the United States District Court of Southern District of Florida, which is the Miami division. It's President Donald J. Trump, an individual, versus Dow Jones and Company, Inc., doing business as the Wall Street Journal, a Delaware corporation, News Corporation, a Delaware corporation, Keith Rupert Murdoch, an individual, Robert Thompson, an individual, Khadija Safdar, an individual, and Joseph Palazzo, an individual. Plaintiffs Donald J. Then it's interesting. Just a little side note. The Supreme Court ruled that Donald J. Trump can't be sued for anything that he does while in office, but he can sue anybody that he wants to while he's in office. Double standards, double standards. So plaintiff Donald J. Trump, or plaintiff or President Trump, by and through his counsel, sues defendants, and I listed them before, and he alleges as follows. The nature of the action, grounded in facts, shaped by experience, and defined by editorial standards that don't waver. And that's a quote from the Dow Jones and Company, Inc., the publisher of the Wall Street Journal newspaper. Proudly proclaims this maxim across the banner of its website, holding itself out to the world as an honest and forthcoming broker of newsworthy material. And yet, defendants maliciously, deliberately, and despicably actions that gave rise to this action show plainly that they do not practice what they preach. I'll read that again because I added my own little spin. And yet, defendants' malicious, deliberate, and despicable action that give rise to this action show plainly that they do not practice what they preach. On July 17, 2025, defendants Khadija Safdar, Joseph Palazzo co-authored and published an article largely focused on President Trump that falsely claimed that he authored, drew, and signed a card to wish the late and utterly disgraced Jeffrey Epstein a happy 50th birthday. To attempt and inextricably link President Trump to Epstein, defendants Safdar and Palazzo falsely claimed that the salacious language of the letter is contained within a hand-drawn naked woman, which was created with a heavy marker. Worse, defendant Safdar and Palazzo falsely represents as facts that President Trump drew the naked woman's breast and signed his name, Donald, below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Y'all, we about to be on one. We are about to be on one. So just buckle up. Buckle up. Okay. All right. Let me finish. Perplexingly, however, the quote letter is a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person. Indeed, defendants Safdar and Palazzo provide a series of quotes from the non existent letter, claiming that the letter was written in third person, beginning with a voiceover interluding a conversation, followed by a purported dialogue between President Trump and Epstein, as if they were characters in a play. On the one hand, defendants Safdar and Palazzo falsely passed off as fact that President Trump in 2003 wrote, drew, and signed this letter. And on the other hand, defendants Safdar and Palazzo failed to attach the letter, failed to attach the alleged drawing, and failed to show proof that President Trump authored or signed any such letter, and failed to explain how this purported letter was obtained. The reason for those failures is because no authentic letter or drawing exists. Defendants concocted this story to malign President Trump's character and integrity, deceptively portray him in a false light. Despite the glaring failures in journalistic ethics and standards of accurate reporting, defendants Dow Jones and News Corp, at the direction of defendants Murdoch and Thompson, published to the world the false, defamatory, and malignant statements authored by defendants Safdar and Palazzo. Hundreds of millions of people have already viewed the false and defamatory statements published by the defendants. And given the timing of the defendant's article, which shows their malicious intent behind it, the overwhelming financial and reputational harm suffered by President Trump will continue to multiply. So the parties in this case, and I've read them before, is Donald J. Trump suing Dow Jones Company, which owns the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, and then the two journalists. This court has jurisdiction over this action pursuant as the parties are diverse and the amount in controversy is greater than $75,000. The court possesses personal jurisdiction over defendants Dow Jones and News Corp, pursuant to Florida statute on the grounds that during the operative period alleged in the complaint, they engaged in substantial and not isolated business activities in Florida, and more specifically in this district. By way of illustration, defendants Dow Jones and News Corp published the Wall Street Journal for daily circulation throughout Florida in the district. The Wall Street Journal is everywhere. And I thought the Wall Street Journal was located with offices in New York. Do they have offices in Florida as well? Defendants Dow Jones and News Corp publish online news reports at www.wsj.com. In addition, this court possesses personal jurisdiction over defendants pursuant to Florida statute 48 193-1A1, because defendant Dow Jones and News Corp operate, conduct, engage, or carry business in this state or have an office and agency in this state. Very good. That's what I needed to know. Florida statute 48.193 1-A sub 2, on the grounds that all defendants committed a torturous act in this state as alleged in this complaint, and Florida statute, not going to read it, on the grounds that defendant caused injury to President Trump within this state arising out of an act or omission by defendants outside this state while at or about the time of the injury, products, materials, or things processed, serviced, or manufactured by defendants were used or consumed within this state in the ordinary course of commerce, trade, or use. All right. Give me 1 second, y'all. I will be right back. I got to get something and then I'll come right back. Hold on. All right. I appreciate y'all's patience. I needed some more of my water. I ran out of my water. All right, let's get to it. The venue is proper in this district pursuant to 28 U.S. Code 1391 B2 and B3 because a substantial part of the events or emissions giving rise to President Trump's claim occurred in this district by virtue of the transmission and publication of the false and defamatory statements in the district and elsewhere, and also because defendants are subject to this court's personal jurisdiction with respect to this action. Because you know that he don't want to be up there in the Southern District, the New York Southern District of New York court, because they have prosecuted him. Or was that state court? I think that was state court. Don't quote me. I don't know. Statement of fact. The article. On July 15, 2025, Palacio sent an email to White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt advising of Dow Jones' intent to publish an article which discussed a purported letter sent by President Trump to Epstein for Epstein's 50th birthday. That same afternoon, child, we was in the middle of the Diddy trial when all this is going on. That same afternoon, counsel for President Trump sent an email to defendants advising that the intended article was false in claiming that President Trump authored the purported letter, which he did not, and further warned Dow Jones to cease and desist from publishing, disseminating, or otherwise distributing such information because it was false and defamatory. None of the defendants responded to the email. Instead, on July 17, 2025, this sounds similar to the Baldoni case. The New York Times sent a letter, and then, you know, they asked for a response, and before the response can be given, they had already published. Woo! Instead, on July 17th, defendants published or caused the publishing of the article authored by defendants Safdar and Palacio, titled Jeffrey Epstein. Friends sent him body letters for a 50th birthday, because I think we saw that. Didn't we see this? Yes. This is what, there it is right here. Let me just share this tab real quick. This is the article we went over, because, you know, it's behind a paywall, so we're not going to definitely get that. But this was their names, Khadija Safdar and Joe Palacio. There it is. That's when they sent it. The article was published in the Wall Street Journal as an exclusive. However, since publication, defendants have widely disseminated to hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Therein, defendants falsely and maliciously stated that President Trump supposedly authored, drew, and signed a letter wishing Epstein a happy 50th birthday. Defendants elaborated on their false, defamatory, and unsubstantiated and disparaging claims against President Trump by claiming that he drew an outline of a naked woman, drew breast on her, and signed his name below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Oh, y'all be doing way too much. But at the same time, it's amazing how all of these things can be used against you in a court of law. You think that they are innocuous, but let's continue. Next, defendants further maligned President Trump by wrongly and ludicrously contending that inside of the naked woman, he allegedly drew lies, a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein written in the third person. This is the entry of that imaginary conversation. And there's a voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything, the note began. And then it says, Donald said, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do. Come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. $20 million, y'all. This is what $20 million is getting. 20 billion, excuse me, 20 billion. Let's continue. Despite these unsubstantiated claims, however, the article does not attach the purported letter, does not identify the purported drawing, nor does it show any proof that President Trump has anything to do with it. Tellingly, the article does not explain whether defendants have obtained a copy of the letter, have seen it, have had it described to them, or any other circumstances that would otherwise lend credibility to the article. That is because the supposed letter is a fake, and the defendants knew it when they chose to deliberately defame President Trump. Now, this is interesting because news organizations have not only throngs of lawyers on part, the editors and all of them. Before anything goes out, they're supposed to, because of the fact, if you go back into the late 90s, early 2000s, where they had gotten lax, and there was a couple of people that were sued for writing for plagiarizing and writing some false thing. I know that these newsrooms and these news reporters and things like that, they're very, very wary about putting stuff out that they can't and it's not a matter if it has to be factually truth. It has to be more so that if they put this information out, they're supposed to have something to kind of back it up, whether it's a statement from somebody who saw it or something to that effect. So this is interesting because usually newsrooms and news reporters, they do not want to have anybody suing them. And this looks, how this looks on the agency, because again, William Murdoch, he owns Rupert Murdoch owns Fox, and he's been chummy with President Trump until I don't know when he stopped being chummy with President Trump. So this is quite interesting that this the Wall Street Journal, excuse me, it's real interesting that the Wall Street Journal is reporting all of this. And I don't know, because there's nothing saying that they don't have it. They may just not want to show it. But this may force their hand to show them the letter itself. Tellingly, the article doesn't explain whether, okay, we've talked about that. On the one hand, the article states that it isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. And yet, on the other hand, defendants pass off the false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements in the article as fact, falsely claiming without substantiating that President Trump is a friend, pal, or family of Epstein. Without substantiating. Well, they wouldn't have to substantiate that because President Trump substantiated that in numerous photos that he's been seen in, and also interviews that he was a friend of Epstein. So they wouldn't have to substantiate that. The president already substantiated that himself. Indeed, the article contains the following false statements that are defamatory per se. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is bawdy, like others in the album. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denote the woman's breast, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. This isn't clear. It isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. Inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten. Okay, we keep reading. Style as an imagine. Okay, we keep reading that. And they keep going back over that. We're not going to do that. The article also contains the following statements that are implicitly defamatory. Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him a body letter for a 50th birthday album. One was from Donald Trump. So I guess the Jeffrey Epstein's friends is not the problem. It was the one from Donald Trump. Number B, it was Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and Ghislaine Maxwell was preparing a special gift to mark the occasion. She turned to Epstein's family and friends. One of them was Donald Trump. Now, all of this is what he's saying that are implicitly defamatory, because I guess he's saying that they didn't prove or show that he was a friend of Epstein. The album had poems, photos, and greetings from business people, academics, Epstein's former girlfriends, and childhood pals, according to the documents reviewed by the Journal and people familiar with them. When he turned 50, Epstein was already wealthy from managing Wexner's fortune and was socializing with Trump, Clinton, and other powerful people. He often entertained at his Manhattan townhouse, Palm Beach, Florida home, and private Caribbean island. Despite the clear journalistic failures of due diligence and accuracy of the article, Dow Jones, at the direction of its director and majority owner, Murdoch, and News Corp, at the direction of its CEO, Thompson, published the article to hundreds of millions of people. Notably, Murdoch and Thompson authorized the publication of the article after President Trump put them both on notice that the letter was fake and non-existent. Then it says the article goes viral. Within hours of its publication, the article went viral on television, internet, social media, and all other modes of communication. The article was also widely republished and discussed on internet watering hole on the internet's watering hole, X.com. Woo! Wait a minute. The girls are fighting. They're no longer friends. Aww. To further exacerbate this already caustic situation, the Wall Street Journal also placed the article on the front page of its July 18, 2025 newspaper. Okay, so here it is down here at the bottom, if you can see it. I wonder, can we blow it up just to see what it says? Sure, I know. Because the way those letters have spliced, we can't see nothing. The Lincoln Project, a known anti-Trump organization, republished the article to all 2.8 million of its followers. As of this writing, it has received over 229,000 unique impressions. Colin Rugg, a journalist with over 18 million subscribers or 1.8 million followers on X.com, republished several of the false and defamatory statements contained in the article, as well as powerful denials by Trump. To date, has received over 3.5 unique impressions. And so this is what he said. But we can't read that, and I'm not going to his. Keith Olbermann, a podcaster with over 900,000 followers on X, republished several of the false and defamatory statements contained in the article. Ken Klippenstein, an independent social media influencer with over 543,000 followers on X, republished the headline and several false and defamatory statements from the article. To date, his republication has received over 1 million unique impressions. Seth, and he goes on all of these people on X. Nothing from the Truth Network. Exactly. A mess. A mess. The following morning, on July 18, 2025, defendants continued to amplify the defamatory statements contained in the article, adding over 440,000 unique impressions. And so this is a post that they said. Oh, well, they even put, oh, let's read what they wrote. I was just skimming. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. I guess this is on X. It was Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and Ghislaine Maxwell was preparing a special gift to mark the occasion. She turned to Epstein's family and friends. One of them was Donald Trump. Maxwell collected letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's other associates for a 2003 birthday album, according to the documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Pages from the leather bound album, assembled before Epstein was first arrested in 2006, are among the documents examined by Justice Department officials who investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago, according to people who have reviewed the pages. It's unclear if any of those pages are part of the Trump's administration recent review. Hold on, y'all. I got to look something up real quick. Hold on. So it was in Palm Beach. Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so I'm reading this right here because I wanted to know when he was arrested. And it says, this is from the Palm Beach Post, and it was written by Holly Baltz. And this was back in 2024, July 8th, 2024. The Epstein saga began and could have ended in Palm Beach County in 2006. The Palm Beach Post sued in 2019 to find out why it didn't. Now, secret documents detailing what happened 17 years ago when Epstein was indicted on only a single prostitution charge could become public under a new state law. The Jeffrey Epstein case began in Palm Beach County in 2005, though it was later revealed in Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal case that his sexual abuse of children here began a decade earlier. In the 1990s, Maxwell enlisted Epstein's chauffeur and traveled all over the county to find girls for Epstein. She picked up one of the most spotlighted ones, Virginia Roberts, is it Gurif? At Mar-a-Lago, where the 15-year-old and her father worked. By the mid-2000s, Maxwell apparently participated less in that mission for Epstein. The early case focused on Epstein's network of middle and high school age girls. Because remember, they said that Epstein used to teach those aged girls at a school that Bill Barr, who was 45, Donald Trump's attorney general, where his father was a principal. Epstein bought his mansion on El Brillo Way in Palm Beach in 1990. Since his death, it has been sold and demolished. So here we go. So in 2005, police investigation of Jeffrey Epstein begins. And this was on March 14th. And you read the word of a 14-year-old reported by the police. The stepmother of a 14-year-old girl who attends Royal Palm Beach High School reports to police that on the island of Palm Beach that her stepdaughter had been touched by a wealthy man. The stepmother tells a detective that supposedly the man has lots of money and has young girls come to his house. So this is when it began. So then they had, in October 20th, the police search his home. And it says, missing in the search are several computers, which police believe possibly contain names and photos of victims. Palm Beach detectives said that they believe Epstein was tipped off about the search and that the computers were in the vault of an Epstein attorney. Later, federal prosecutors will try to get those computers. The chief federal prosecutor, Marie Villafana, said she suspected child porn was on them. Then December 19th, his legal dream team arrives. So this is where he had Alan Dershowitz, Barry Kirshner, Jack Goldberger, Roy Black, Gerald Lefcourt, and Kenneth Starr. And you remember Kenneth Starr used to be a former a special prosecutor. And so we won't go into this, but what I was looking for. Ooh. Oh, this is nice. They got all the information. Grand jury, Epstein's arrested. And this 2007, this is important because this is when this secret deal not to prosecute was going on with the feds. And then on September 24th, the deal of a century is signed. Epstein signed what became known as the non-prosecution agreement, called the deal of the century, with federal and state authorities in exchange for pleading guilty to 2 felony prostitute-related charges under Kirshner. The deal requires Epstein to register as an ex-offender. It also protects 4 named co-conspirators, as well as any potential co-conspirators. Then the real negotiation begins among Christier's federal prosecutors and Epstein's lawyers. So here is, and what's interesting about this deal of the century, Ghislaine believes that she is covered under this deal. Now, they don't list the names, but she believes that she's covered under this deal. Because, again, the deal requires him to register. It also protects 4 named co-conspirators, as well as any potential co-conspirators. So if she was one of the people named, then she's saying that she's covered from federal prosecution. If not, she believes that she's covered for under federal prosecution because it would be potential co-conspirators. Which leads me to believe that the reason why the government closed the case because they put this deal. Because potential co-conspirators can conclude those people that participated in the activities of trafficking. Interesting. But let's get back. Where am I? Indeed, defendants are actively promoting the article by displaying at the center of the Wall Street Journal's landing page. Moreover, as of July 18, 2025, the article was the #1 trending topic on X.com. Ciao. And then he said, this is what he wrote on there. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to the court's approval. This scam perpetuated by the Democrats should end now. How did you get into it? I thought y'all was getting it with the Wall Street Journal. Or is this something recently? When is this? 12 hours ago? Anyway, let's go. In addition, now he's blaming the Democrats, but it was the MAGA folks that want this information. It's your people. In addition, multiple media outlets republished, adopted, and endorsed the false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements in the article, including, but not limited to, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, Variety, Politico, People Magazine, The Independent, The Guardian, and Rolling Stones. Although these articles, transmissions, and social media posts and articles are only a fraction of the impressions and engagement that have been generated by the article, the false Defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements contained therein have been seen by hundreds of millions of people. All of the above references, articles, posts, and false statements have resulted in overwhelming financial and reputational damages to President Trump, expected to be in the billions of dollars, due to the direct and implicit defamatory statements paraded through the article. All conditions, precedents that to the bringing of this action have occurred, been satisfied, or otherwise been waived. As a result of the defendant's wrongful conduct described herein, and plaintiff's need to protect and enforce his legal rights, plaintiff has retained the undersigned attorneys and is required to pay attorneys' fees to prosecute this action. But he said that's going to cost billions of dollars. This is interesting to me, and this is interesting because this lays to bear the upper class. And what I'm saying about this is this. All of this information is being what's going to be interesting is all of this information is going to be laid bare, because if this is coming out, that means there's going to be discovery and there's going to be information. I know that we're talking about a newspaper and reporters or anything else like that, but also what it's triggering is they want to go look in Ghislaine Maxwell's grand jury case and pull up the information from there. Now, they have the information from her being at court, but Donald Trump wants her to release the grand jury information and stuff like that. And I am wondering, in all of that information, are there any other names and things like that that could come to the front? Because at this point, to the ruling class, the rich folks, Donald Trump is about to become a liability. He is a help because he keeps them rich. But all is needed is for a case like this to disrupt the status quo, because the rich the wealthy do not want the masses to mess around and disrupt the status quo, because they have them where they want them. And as far as believing everything is fake news, as far as believing everything that Trump and getting all of these agendas and things out. So this is interesting. So the plaintiff repeats, this is count 1, and realigns the allegation contained within paragraphs 1 through 44. And so basically he's saying that they defamed him about having this letter and not showing them the letter, just quoting from this letter and not saying that it exists. He says the statements were not privileged. The statements were published by defendants with actual malice, oppression, and fraud. And he's saying that is because they had sent them a cease and desist, and they still released the article. Count 2, defamation per quote. Plaintiff incorporates by reference the alleged set forth in paragraphs 1 through 44. The unprivileged statement set forth in the article included but not limited to those specified in paragraph 21 and all subparagraphs therein, made by defendants to others about plaintiff, are false and defamatory. At the time such statements were made, defendants knew or should have known that they were false and defamatory. Defendants published such statements maliciously, with knowledge of the falsity of the statements and or with reckless disregard of their truth or falsity. An overwhelming number of people all over the world read the false and defamatory statements. The statements were not privileged. The statements were published by defendants with actual malice and oppression, because they're going to keep going over this same stuff because for each one of these charges. So we're not going to read all of that. So they demand for a jury trial. Plaintiffs hereby request a jury trial to all the issues so triable. Date July 18th, 2025. So they filed this yesterday in Florida. Mm, 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 mm. So what are y'all thinking? Mm, this is something. All right. So that's it. We did that under an hour. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So what do you think of Trump? Do you think the Wall Street Journal is going to release the binder? Who has the binder? Because they had to see it. They had to get it from somewhere to see it. Unless what Trump's saying is true, that they had made it up. But even even the conversation, that's just too much to make. It didn't make enough sense to make it up. This right here, this imaginary conversation that was typewritten on this card, it didn't even make any sense. When you read it, it's not even making any sense. That doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't mean that it's not true. I'm just saying that to me, it just doesn't make any sense. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Do you think that the Wall Street Journal and President Trump will settle? Or do you think this is going to go to court? Now, you know, Trump has been to court several times, and he's lost several times. What do you all think? Let me know down in the comments. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.